We're still on here, right?
Yeah. Do you want to
I'm
stay
still
on
on
here?
here.
Do you want to stay on here when I open, or do you want to go off and then pop on?
I mean, I totally don't care.
Yeah, you can stay on and just be like, hi, if you want to.
Yeah, might
Maybe
as
I'll
well.
just like.
We'll just hate. I'll just be like, I've come in from my staircase.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, y'all can get in position and then like slide in however you want.
Can you guys see me? California, San Diego. Yes. Awesome. Okay, fantastic. So, welcome. I want to welcome my dear and wonderful and talented friend, Grady Hendrix.
That was very uncomfortable, but I think it was worth the effort.
Oh my God, it was so good. I was really afraid that you were not going to pop up, that maybe you had passed out, and like that maybe literally you had fallen down there because you died, and that I would just be this like insensitive person continuing to just go on.
Or I threw out my back and I would just lie on the floor and do this. You just say, ow, ow. No, I'm good. I'm good.
I mean, whatever. We're old. We all throw out our backs. It's fine.
Exactly. I do. I spend half my day prostrate on the floor.
Oh my God. Me too. I have like a frozen shoulder right now, and it's very uncomfortable, and I keep taking more medicine, and it keeps not working. So
Think you need to take more medicine.
I've taken so much, and
More.
I just realized, everyone learned from me, apparently you cannot take aspirin and Aleve together. Whatever it was that I took together can completely kill you if you put them together. So you should look up before, because I was like, oh, that's good, because you can take them on top of each other. Not true. So look up things you can't take aspirin with, and it's something, and it'll say, don't do what Jenny did, because yeah, it was a problem. So I stopped doing that, and instead I moved to rum, and that's working much better.
I feel like that's been the solution for mankind's problems for hundreds of years.
I mean, definitely for the last 19 months, 100%.
It worked for the British Navy. It works for you.
Right. And it keeps your blood circulating. It's healthy. It's sterile. It's fine. It's low carb, I think, or maybe that's vodka.
It's a romance enhancer. It's festive.
It is. It is. It's a natural social lubricant. Ugh, love it.
Yeah.
So first off, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to talk to you. So I wanted to say first, so behind you, it says in one of your boxes, it says kids horror. Is that what it says? Oh no,
that's
even better.
Killer Kids, and that's Animal Attacks. It's my paperbacks that I had, writing paperbacks from hell, and I keep accumulating more and more and more of them, and now there's more over there. So yeah, and they just keep happening to me. But actually, I'm trying to see what's on top here. Prank Night, which is terrible, but it's about the secret history of Halloween, which apparently, I didn't know this, but every 70 years, interdimensional lizards come to our dimension and suck brains. And we founded Halloween around that. And it comes with terrible, terrible poetry. It also, like a lot of these horror paperbacks, it opens with a quote from Shakespeare, which I always feel like is like, set the bar high. Trick or treat, death is sweet. The dead shall rise, the living to eat. Born in hell, none shall quell the evil bred for man's death knell.
Wait, Shakespeare has gotten worse, because
no, that's not the Shakespeare quote is hang on, that was just a poem by author David Robbins.
Okay, good.
The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones, from, I guess, Julius Caesar, which has nothing, but nothing to do with Prank Night. That has nothing to do with brain eating lizards at all. who are allergic to water, which I feel like a lot of aliens who invade Earth are allergic to water. Like
That
this
seems like
planet's made of water.
right. Go to Mars. Go to any planet that you pass on the way.
Invade Mars.
Right. We're not doing
Dirt
anything.
bolas, no water.
Yeah. I guess we're taking
And
pictures.
then the point horror novel Homecoming Queen, which has a really like, I love that she's just beaten someone to death with her scepter.
Is that an 80s book? Because I think I read
Yeah.
point horror in the 80s. I think
Yeah,
I read several of them.
This is 1996.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad, but I haven't read it yet. And then, because I'm boning up to do some Christmas write-ups, this is a men's adventure book called Christmas Kill with Nick Carter. But I love the tagline is right. A toy factory explosion in Japan sets the stage for another Hiroshima disaster. I actually doubt it. Making the bombing of Hiroshima look like a mere fireworks display in comparison. No, I don't think so. I think Hiroshima was bad, and I don't think anything that Nick Carter does is going to compare.
So good. It's so good. Okay,
Yeah,
so
but those boxes are full of crap like that.
that makes me so incredibly happy. I wish I could actually move my computer around so that you could see, because I have a very large collection of pulp fiction, especially bad sci-fi and horror, and nobody appreciates it. And I have to like, I go through like the old, the bookstores that sell like the resale, and I'm always on Abe Books where I'm like, give me, whatever terrible thing that you have. And
yeah, it's getting harder though, like to find the good stuff.
It is, and it's so expensive. Like every once in a while I can find it. I don't pay more than $3 typically.
I think that's fair.
There's so many, especially sleaze fiction, which I didn't even think was a thing until one of the people that I buy from was like, you really are looking for sleaze fiction, right? And then I looked it up and I was like, Jesus Christ, that is what I'm looking for. And this is exactly why you should go to a bookseller, because they can go, yeah, you're messed up in this way, and let me hook you up.
Yeah. I'm going through a big gothic romance phase right now. And dude, those books go for so much money. It's crazy. I'm having to pay like $5 and even $10 for a book. It's awful.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I remember half those books in those boxes cost me like a penny plus shipping on Amazon, or like $3.99 on ABE, or just $1 and $2 in a used bookstore.
Yes.
For the old days. Yeah.
Yes. Or like when the libraries have their basement sales.
Yeah, library book sales.
It's my favorite. You know what? Hang on a second. I'm going to go get one because it was so good. If I can find it right on the top.
A creepy army of dolls in the background.
I have a lot of them.
Well, they just have such big staring eyes. I feel like they want something from me, and whatever I give them won't be enough. Maybe I'm projecting. I don't know.
No, that is exactly the truth, and that is what they want. And there's actually a 30 on that wall, and there's 30 on that wall, and then there's just doll eyes on this wall.
Oh,
so, yeah, we've got some issues. So this one I really, really liked. This one's Odd.
Ooh, Odd John.
He's odd.
What is that in the foreground? Is that Driftwood?
Yeah, that's Driftwood hiding her face.
Her points. Yeah.
Yes. And it says he had to be stopped, for all women were his playthings and all men were his pawns. So that one was really good.
He is odd.
This one is great. Flesh. And do you just see like there's a devil man?
Yeah.
It's so
and
good.
It's a Philip Jose Farmer book. So it's quality.
It absolutely is. Let's see. Oh, this one's good. Sin in Space. Isn't that wonderful?
It's the worst place. It's the last place you think you'll find sin, so it's therefore the worst place. Space is a vacuum, except for the occasional pockets of sin.
Yeah, and I like that he's wearing the full suit, and she's just like, skinny jeans for me.
Yeah.
And then this one
was
100% my favorite, Virgin Planet.
I'm gonna say he looks like a virgin to me.
He is, and also spoiler alert: nobody has sex in all of these books. There's no sex
because they're virgins.
Yes, It's all like,
You didn't
oh,
read the
I can't wait
title.
to the end.
Yeah.
It's just a tease.
Book full of virgins. What's going to happen? Not sex.
I thought it was a crowd claw and not driftwood. Me too. That would have been a
I
better
did
book,
too. Yeah.
right?
A
Uh,
giant crab.
so I know you have like things going on. So I want to get to,
Yes,
so I wanted to
the
talk a
meat.
little bit. Yeah. So first about horror, and then I will do a spoiler alert before we actually start talking about the Final Girl support group, which everybody should 100%. I know a lot of you have already read it, but if you haven't, you need to go out and get it. So good. So before we do that, so it's Halloween. I don't know about you. I'm watching every horror film that exists. I'm reading horror constantly because that's my jam. Why do you think that we're so drawn to it?
I don't know, which is a terrible thing for someone who writes horror to say. But we seem to be, and I don't want us to resist that urge. But I don't know. I mean, it's just another genre. It's like romance. I mean, I think your life's got a little romance in it. Your life's got a little horror in it. So you look for them for fun. Yeah, I know it's a dud of an answer, but I I've just been reading horror and watching horror movies for so long. It's like they don't scare me. I just like the atmospherics, it's comforting to me. So yeah, sorry.
No, that's a great answer. So is there ever, do you think, a point where, or has it ever gotten to you a point where you're like, oh, this is too much? Like whether it's in your writing or something you've been exposed to?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like there's a book like Let's Go Play at the Adams, which I helped bring back into print with Valancourt, which is a novel from the 70s that I've read it twice. I mean, I had to write the introduction, so I had to read it a second time. It's a great book. It's a truly great book, but I never want to read it again. And it's a little like 2001: A Space Odyssey, like inarguably a great movie. I don't need to see that again. Let's Go Play at the Adams. I don't need to go there again. Everyone should do it once, but maybe not twice. And definitely with my stuff, I mean, it's all about tweaking the meters. I mean, every scene of anything gross in my books had a grosser version before that you scale it back. You don't want to repulse people, So yeah, I mean, definitely. But in terms of something you wouldn't do or anything, I mean, like it's like kill kids. Oh, the one thing I won't do again, if I can help it, is kill pets. People get really killing a fictional pet, people get really upset. I still get hate mail about a dog that died, my second novel in like 2017. And on the one hand, it's very flattering. Like, I'm glad I brought that dog to life. On the other hand, it is a bummer to wake up on Sunday and open your email and like there's someone who's just like, you're a monster. I hope someone finds your dog and kills it. I'm like, I don't have a dog.
Oh
Plus,
my,
I killed it myself already, so joke's on them.
what? Should we send someone for help?
I mean, it just happens, People get worked up. People get worked up.
They do.
It's a compliment.
And I know exactly the book because I remember when I read that, I was like, no, don't do it. Don't. Oh, he did it.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
Yeah.
But I also understood it. And I will say, and this isn't a spoiler, but just as a quick aside in the Final Girl support group, where basically the like my idea of the dog was replaced by a plant.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, good job, my friend. Good job. Because I had the same feelings of like, save the plants, but also like not to the point where I was like, I'm going to cry,
Yeah.
So.
And you can't shoot a plant. I mean, you can, but nothing happens.
Yeah. I mean, something would happen, but it wouldn't be awful.
The plant would live.
I want to go back. I want to remind myself to go back and clip out. There was a point there where you said something I would never do again, kill kids. And I just want to clip that out and then just have that for later and have that as like check out this, terrible thing that Grady Hendrix said. And I just think that would be really funny. We won't do it.
No, please. I wholeheartedly encourage that.
Although it is nice because you are saying you're not going to do it again. You're not going to kill kids again. So
Which, yeah, and I feel like isn't everyone rooting for me? I did it. I learned my lesson.
you
Isn't that what life's supposed to be about?
the rest of us are just on that edge going, I don't know, should we? Should we not?
Should we? Should we not? I did it. I learned a lesson. It's more trouble than it's worth.
Right? You guys learn from Grady Hendrix. Don't kill
Don't
kids.
kill kids.
The end. Let's see. So you have written, there's vampire, there's supernatural, slasher. Do you have a favorite horror genre that you like yourself?
Yeah, for me, well, there's two. There's a movie one and a book one. So for movies, it's zombies. I imprinted on zombies very early, and to this day, I have a recurring, and have had for about 20 to 30 years, I would say. I have a recurring zombie dream, and it's the same dream, and it always picks up from where it ended before, and always the same world, same rules, same situation, same people are in it. But sometimes I won't have it for 5 or 6 years. And then if I'm really stressed out, I'll have it and I'll forget that there was a period where I forgot I had the zombie dream. And I was more stressed than I realized. And I had the zombie dream and it literally picked up from where the last one ended. And I remember in my dream being like, oh crap, this again. So zombies, big for me in movies. For books, it's Animal Attack. I love Animal Attack books because there's something about a dog or a cat or a seagull or a bear or a snail or a jellyfish that's just like, I had it. I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to throw down. I've taken as much as I can take. I'm not doing this anymore. We're coming for human civilization. It's just so great. It's so great. Yes, there is a snail attack book. It's called Pestilence. And it's about a special kind of snail and it attacks England because all animal attack books, I would say 80% of animal attack books happen in England. For some reason, animals hate England the way giant monsters hate Japan. They want to destroy it. But there's two killer jellyfish books. I mean, that's one more than I thought there would be.
The market is flooded.
Yeah. I
apologize.
But one of the best, if anyone ever finds a copy of The Farm, which is just about a whole farm of animals that they get, basically a nun causes a car accident and it's during a heat wave and it makes a tanker truck and another tanker truck carrying separate chemicals to spill into the water system and near a farm in Wales. And the drugs in the truck combine to make ketamine. And so all the animals get stoned out of their heads drinking the water because it's hot. And they're like, hey, how you feeling? How you feeling? Yeah. You know what I've been thinking? What are you? I've been thinking, like, let's kill all the people. Let's just kill them. And so like everything kills you. Cats, like kittens kill people, pigs kill people, geese come down the chimney and kill people. It's old McDonald's death farm. It's really, really good.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I will say, I take ketamine for my depression, and it's like medical grade. Like they come in, like the doctor shoots you up, and you have like a full thing. And I have never wanted to murder England, but now
You're not an animal.
Like I might.
Yeah, you need to get more in touch with the animal side of yourself, and then you will hear a British accent and go into a kill crazy spree.
That's fantastic. Oh, this makes me so happy. I'm writing down so many things to read. Okay, so then
Wait, I can't find the book. Who is the author? The author of The Farm? Hang on.
That would be a hard one to find. Oh,
it's
Stealth is Pestilence.
Oh, Pestilence? Okay. Because The Farm is Richard Hay, Haigh, and then Pestilence is Edward Jarvis, who wrote several watery animal attack books. Oh, and I'm so sorry. Pestilence is mutant lampreys that attack the ferry in the British Channel. But I know there's a snail book. Snails is oh, you know what it is? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Slugs by Sean Hudson is a killer slug book.
That's a giant difference.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. I suck.
Big letdown.
Yeah, I should have stayed prostrate on the floor.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, so same question, but movies.
Oh, wait. For genre?
Yes.
Oh, zombies.
Or like any great, but like any great
Oh,
movies.
recommendations?
Yeah.
Well, like, oh boy, with zombies, you know, I really I go for the classics, you know, Dawn of the Dead, Return of the Living Dead. But also I have a lot of love for Lucio Fulci's Zombie, where a zombie fights a shark, which is so good. Because oh, you've never seen Zombie?
No.
It's really great. You know, I don't really, someone just asked in the comments, slow or fast zombies. I don't really care. To me, it's all the same. Slow, fast. I'm an agnostic on that. Yeah, but no, there is yeah, a zombie versus shark fight. And the most amazing thing about it in Zombie, which is actually a really good movie, is that you're like, that's a stuntman. That's some poor Italian stuntman who was probably making like $40 a day. And they threw him in there with a shark, like in zombie makeup. It's pretty phenomenal. So yeah, that's a great one. And also, there are a couple of Fulci movies, like City of the Living Dead, which is a semi-zombie movie. It's kind of an H.P. Lovecraft movie, but they shot it in Savannah, Georgia in like 1980. And I could only imagine these Italian maniacs in Savannah, Georgia, like shooting this in 1980. Like people are like, what are these boys doing? He's asking for spaghetti. You know, it must have been wild because the whole movie is just these rotting, teleporting zombies. And every time they show you nighttime Savannah, Fulci decides that he needs to dub in the sounds of a jungle. Like, so you hear like lions roaring and macaws and parrots. It's so great and weird and wonderful.
Fantastic. Have you watched Zomboat, the series?
No, I haven't. Is it good?
It's very good. Yes, it's British. I think it's on Hulu. It's yeah, very funny, very
There's also Zombievers.
I've seen Zombievers. Very good. Very good.
And actually, I'm going to put a shout out here. So I used to be, back when these jobs existed, I used to be a reporter, but I reviewed a lot of the movies for places. And I was so low level that I reviewed movies no one else wanted. And one day, I mean, this was probably in 2016. Someone didn't review anymore. And they sent me a screener for this movie. And I think it's on Amazon Prime now, called Rise of the Animals. And the cover they sent me was the movie poster that they use now, but they had hand drawn it in magic marker. And it features a squirrel holding the human eyeball like a little nut. And it was beautiful. And I threw it away because what a jackass. It is the best animal attack movie after Jaws. My ranking would go Jaws, Rise of the Animals. It's filmed for like $100, all on video, digital video. And the animals are stuffed or puppets. I mean, they're really not, but they're good. Like, it opens with frogs is okay, but it opens with like this cat attack, and it is a stuffed cat, and it's great. It is so good. It's, if anyone has some beer and needs an animal attack movie, I cannot recommend Rise of the Animals enough. And there's one of my favorite shots in filmdom where a young couple is discussing love because they're falling in love. And it's a long shot of them walking along the shores of this beautiful lake. And they're like, yeah, I don't know, now that the world's ending and the animals are rising, is there any point in being in love? She's like, yeah, there's always a point in being in love. especially if it's with someone special. And he's like, really? And in the background, way in the background, they paid for this digital effect of these tentacles, like a giant octopus coming up and just pulling a boat under the surface and you hear these faint screams, and they keep walking just with their banal love dialogue. It is brilliant. Rise of the Animals, highly recommended.
Oh my God, that is absolutely fantastic. Somebody sent me a screener. I don't know why I get them. I think it's because I talk about horror, but it was, I want to say it was called The Turd, and it was like a
Oh,
piece of shit that like tries to kill people, but I don't have
I
a
would be
DVD
disappointed
player.
if it wasn't.
Exactly, but I don't have a DVD player, so I never got to see it. But then they just sent me, like just a couple of months ago, I have it here somewhere, but I'm not gonna be able to find it, the book, and they were like, the book based on the movie The Turd.
Ooh,
And I was like, okay, I'm sold. So it's
how
on
is it? How's the book?
it's awful in the best possible way. It is bizarro fantastic.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, it might be The Revenge of the Turd. I know the turd was in there. Maybe the slaying of the turd. No, I think it was just the turd. Yeah, sorry.
I admire the simplicity of that.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Let's see. So, dun dun dun. I want to talk to you about Final Girl support group. So I will say, if you haven't read this yet, you may want to pause because we will get into some spoilers. And if you have read it, keep listening. And if you haven't, we'll have this on our YouTube channel later, because I know there's a ton of people who can't watch it live because they have real lives and don't just sit home drinking and talking about horror like I do.
Losers.
Right? Weirdos. They're missing the turd.
What are
Ugh,
they doing on a Friday night that's so cool?
right? Okay, so first of all, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I wrote it. I did the first draft back in 2014. And I was actually talking to Stephen Graham Jones, who was he's had that book, My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is a Final Girl
One of
book
my
that came out this
favorites.
year. Yeah, which is, well, I hope it's your second favorite Final Girl book. But
It
uh but he wrote the first draft of that in 2014, 2015. And 2015 was the year Riley Sager's Final Girls book came out. It was the year Final Girls, the movie, came out. Scream, the TV show, I think, was playing. So like there was something in the air then, and I've tried to figure it out, and I have no idea. Like, I don't know. Like I what was going on? I'm not sure. But really it was the title. Like this is like my best friend's exorcism. It's one of the few times I've had the title first and then everything kind of comes from the title. And I actually wanted to sell this book in 2015, I guess, when I finished it. And the week I sent it to my publisher is the same week Riley Sager, the trade announcement came out about his book coming out. So my publisher's like, I'm not even going to read this. And then 2 years later in 2017, I tried to sell it to my publisher again. He's like, done, it's over. And so he passed on it then. And then in 2018, my manager was like, do you have anything I can sell? Like, I'm so sick of waiting for you to write something new. And so I gave him a copy of this, and he liked it. And so I did a bunch of rewrites. And then we actually made a movie deal for it and then used that. And we actually made the movie deal. This is so crass, but because Halloween, the 2018 remake, came out, and we used like that big opening weekend to be like, if you like that, I got this. So, and then we got that option, and then we used the option to go to publishers and be like, it's already been optioned for a major motion picture, even though it hadn't. And I mean, it had, but you know. And so then, and that's when Berkeley picked it up.
So,
Suckers.
so you basically did exactly what the turd did. You like sold it as a movie first, and then you're like, based on the movie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was totally in a roundabout way, but only because no one, and I'm actually glad no one wanted to buy it in the beginning, because it wouldn't have wound up being the book it is if I'd done that. Like, I just wasn't a good enough writer, and I hadn't thought about it enough and or taken it seriously enough. So yeah, so it took a while. Takes a while. Writing books takes a while.
It takes so long. I
So
would
many
be
words.
furious if I finished a book and they were like, no, we're not going to publish it, because it takes me like 6 years to write a book. So I would be like, oh, well, then I guess I'm fucked okay,
Well,
wait for a dozen years then.
Well, I agree, but also I feel, and since I've heard you use some profanity, I assume we're working
Oh yeah.
blue.
Oh yeah.
I sort of made a bargain with myself early on because I think this is the same with any job, but this is the job I have. But where I was like, okay, if I'm gonna do this for a living, I've got to eat a certain amount of shit, and I have to decide for myself where I stop eating shit. And I realized that my limit was I had no limit. I decided I would eat all the shit. I would eat it all and ask for more. And that stood me in really good stead. And I wouldn't recommend it for everyone because I have a horrible sense of self and no self confidence.
Same.
And yeah, and I have, body images, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But like when they said they didn't want that book, I was like, okay, what book do you want? What can I write here? I started doing Southern Book Club, and my publisher accepted that, and I wrote it for 6 weeks, and which was a sizable amount of time at that point. And then they're like, well, you can still write the book, but sales and marketing just don't. I just don't think there's anything there. It's a vampire book. Who wants those? And also, it's like a book aimed at middle-aged women, and I don't know. They just don't really know how to reach that market, and they just don't have much excitement about this. And I was like, all right, what other book can I write here? Like let's do it. Because one big lesson I've learned, and I don't think every writer's learned this lesson, is that you never want to write a book that your publisher isn't excited to sell. I've done that. It's a mistake. Don't do it. But I know writers who do that. They're like, well, this is the book I'm going to write, and my publisher's just going to take it. And then they're like, why didn't they support it with any marketing? And you're like, because they told you at the beginning they didn't want to sell that book.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this all makes it sound very crass and commercial, and I don't mean to. I just there is a business side of this, which is, I don't know, part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there absolutely is. And it's weird that you don't, I don't know why I just expected because all of your books, you've never written a book that I wasn't just absolutely in love with. It surprises me that anyone would be like, oh, slasher book, oh, vampire book, yeah, maybe come back to me. That it seems like if Stephen King was like, when they're like, a dog book, scary dog, and she's just in the car the whole time. Ugh, how boring.
Sounds awful. Yeah, and actually, can I just respond to something in the chat real quick? Because Andre is saying, as a middle-aged woman, I'm offended, which I don't disagree with, actually. But I also, because I get it, but I mean, I'm middle-aged. I totally get it. But I also kind of could see it from the sales team's point of view, which was it was Quirk. And they were like, we've never sold to that. All our books are very pop culture oriented. And they saw their audience as a sort of YA and what they call new adult audience, they basically under 30. And so they were like, we don't, I mean, they were being dismissive and weird anyways, which is a bummer. But B, they were just like, we don't know how to do this. And the last thing a sales and marketing team wants to do is fail. And it's but on the other hand, I was looking at readers and people like me. I'm middle-aged, I'm a reader, and lots of people I know my age who read, and looking at the readership, and I'm like, middle-aged people read books. I know that seems weird. Most of us think they're out there having sex and doing drugs and running wild, but really a lot of them read books too. They find time somewhere in between their activities in their local street gang and the orgies to read books. And so I was like, I feel like middle-aged people might be interested in some books. But so as much as I agree with y'all, yes, it's a gross sentiment. There is a point where you do talk about demographics in a really weird way with sales stuff. And so I kind of see their point, but I also think it's a bad point. And also they were wrong. Ha ha ha.
Exactly. When you're talking about the age demographic, something that I think is such a strange thing is that so often I will read a book and I'm like, this is a great book. I really love this book. And I look at the price point because, I try to find books for Fantastic Strangelings that are $25 or more, because that's what the, what we, charge to people. And so I want them to get more bang for their buck. And so often I'll read a book and I'm like, this is such a great book. And I'll look at it and I'm like, why is it $16? Because it's hardback and then I'll look at the back and they're focused on YA. And I'm like, just because you're writing it for YA doesn't mean that, first of all, grownups don't read it. And secondly, that it's not just as expensive to create. I don't understand
how
that works.
Well, the YA market's so weird to me because also
Oh,
YA isn't a genre. Like there's all these genres within YA, like and it's also a very, very, but if you're going to talk about like a genre, I find YA so weird because it is the one genre of book that's not written by the people who consume it. Like most romance writers these days are women because the big market, the readership is assumed to be female. Gay fiction, if it's gay male fiction, it's mostly written by gay men. You know, if it's what they call urban fiction, it's mostly written by Black or Latinx writers. But YA is aimed at kids, but written mostly by adults. And so it's a really weird place. I've written a little bit of YA, and I was with a company that wasn't great. They were very much in that. This was very post or really in the middle of the Harry Potter boom. And they were, I don't know if you remember what Alloy was.
yeah.
Yeah, it was Alloy alums who were trying to run an imprint. So it was very much like, here's our formula and we will shake it and money will come out. And that was a really big part of the YA boom and boom cycle. You know, that early J.K. Rowling, hey, you want to make $1 million, write some YA, which I think didn't do well by anyone.
Yeah.
So I find YA very complicated and so different from adult publishing, even down to pricing and marketing. It's like, and the people who do it are like dowsers. Like they know what they're doing. They operate on their experience. And some of it's gut instinct. I don't know. I don't understand, but it seems to be its own category. And adult editors like stay away from it because it's too complicated for them to figure out. So yeah, even the price points, I don't understand that.
I don't either. Okay, well, that makes me feel better then. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
YA
so
is witchcraft.
it absolutely is, and I don't understand it. Okay, so I have several questions. Oh, Jesus Christ, what did I do? Okay, so here's a problem. I wrote notes to myself, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
wrote them in yellow highlighter, which you cannot read now because it has faded. So I don't know what I actually wrote here that I was going to ask you.
Can you sound out some of the syllables? I'll try to interpret.
I mean, I literally cannot see anything that it's just a yellow mark. So here's what it was. My question was, I went through each one of the characters and I was trying to figure out like which one, like the different movies that they were based on. And so I got Scream, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween. I wish I could read the rest.
Adrian's Friday the 13th.
Yes.
And Lynette is Silent Night, Deadly Night.
That's the one. Okay, that was my question. I could not figure it out. I was like,
Christmas. Yeah.
Got it. Well, I thought it was there's a couple, right? There's several, and I was like, I don't, which one is it?
Yeah. Well, Chrissy, I mean, crazy Chrissy in the middle. She's sort of a bit of a cheat. She's part Leprechaun, but part My Bloody Valentine. So like the Canadian prom night slasher mixed with the supernatural Irish horror. So yeah, that was a bit of a cheat.
Gnome coming? Is that the?
Oh, yeah, with Gnome coming, exactly.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, but so definitely like, but there's a whole genre of like Christmas horror, you know. I mean, these days it's having a big revival, but you get into Black Christmas, Christmas Evil. You know, there was like that famous Tales from the Crypt about the killer Santa Claus. Gremlins is a Christmas horror movie. Home for the Holidays, Jack Frost. I mean, it really is its own sort of genre.
Yeah. Well, I was like, maybe it's the American Horror Story Santa. Maybe I went through a bunch of them where I was like, it could be this one, could be okay.
Well, no, definitely Silent Night, Deadly Night, because there's a famous line, the garbage day kill in Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 gets a reference in the book. For people, either really attentive readers or really sad readers like me who just know garbage like that floating around in their brain. I could have learned Spanish, but instead I'm familiar with the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise.
Well, I didn't learn Spanish and I haven't seen part 2 of that. So look at me. I'm just wasting my time.
Wow. No wonder you're home on Friday night.
Exactly. Okay, so here is a weird question.
Please.
So this is a book about strong women who were fighting against, you know, basically mostly men. And did you feel weird being a guy writing this book?
No, I mean, because it's uh I didn't, because one of the things I realized writing this book is this is a story we tell again and again and again. Little Red Riding Hood is a slasher, a proto slasher. It's a teenage girl who goes in the woods, is told not to do something. She does it. She's immediately confronted with this monstrous male figure and has to outsmart him by guile and cunning. And he's disguising himself as her grandmother and all this stuff, and maybe in a hockey mask. And so, and you look at Bluebeard, you look at all those urban legends people told, the hook, the roommate, the babysitter, and the man upstairs, they're all the same story. And we tell this story again and again, and slashers happen to be the latest guise of it. And so I just felt like I was telling a story that seems to be an old favorite. The thing that I did feel weird about is that in doing this book, I realized, and especially afterwards in doing the show, which I'm actually, here, I'm going to do this if that's okay. So I actually, instead of doing a regular author event, I do these live shows that are like one-man shows. And the Welcome to the Final Girl Support Group is like a history of murder books and murder movies. It has songs in it. And I'm actually doing it for the second to the last time at 9:00 Eastern tonight. And I'm putting in the link to register for it if anyone wants to see it. If you haven't gotten enough of me by the end of this, you can register. Now, I got to tell y'all, they've asked me to do a clean version of the show. And I'm fighting them on that right now because there's a great song in it they want me to take out because they feel like it's insensitive. And there's a really good clitoris joke they want me to take out because they think it's insensitive. And I'm pushing back on those. I'm willing to let them take out the fuck if I can have my clitoris joke and my my deformed monster son song.
Do not let them circumcise the clitoris. Like,
yeah.
it's hard enough
Well,
to find a good clitoris. Don't let them make it harder to find. No.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's also like, it's actually, it's part of a whole thing about how trans, like so many of these movies are so anti-trans. And like, I really try to sort of burrow what's going on here. But there's a book where a woman is taking steroids and becomes a monstrous slasher killer. And also everyone thinks she's a man because she has this giant penis. And then they realize she's taken so many steroids, it's her clitoris. And it's like, really? Really, like that's where they're going with this. Like, if you go to the gym too much, you turn into a man. If you like, it's just so awful. But anyway, so when doing the research for the show to put that all together, and watching more slashers and really reading more slasher books and all that stuff, because I try not to do too much research like that before I write a book. I wanted to keep it kind of simple. The first movie's in the franchise and the second, and then leave it there. I realized that the thing that did disturb me was that dead women are really important to us culturally. Like, they are such a part of our pop culture, from Psycho to fairy tales to back to mythology to, I mean, whether it's Friday the 13th or Mayor of Easttown or whatever highbrow Scandinavian horror things on Netflix, so much of our entertainment is about dead women. And I don't know what that means. Like, I really don't. Like, I'm at a loss. Like, because I think it has to be more complicated than the patriarchy. I just do. Like, this kind of thing predated the idea of there even being like women who were anything more than like objects owned by their husbands. Like, it's just something that's, and maybe that, I don't know, maybe it created patriarchy. I don't know, but it's really important. And it goes from highbrow to lowbrow and medium brow. And I really consciously try to play against that. Like, there's one dead woman in Final Girl Support Group, and I really tried to have her have a voice posthumously and be a participant in the book posthumously and have the book happen around her. And there's another woman who dies a natural death, but that was really, I thought, important because that's what these people are ostensibly fighting for, is a natural death. And I think natural deaths are very difficult. and there's a woman that someone kills later, and it's really important they do, to her. It's sort of a transformative moment in the book. So, but even then, packed to the rafters full of dead women. You know, I have 0 dead koalas. I have several dead women. I don't know what it is. I don't know. If you've got thoughts, I'm happy to hear them, because it makes me uncomfortable, but like it seems to be just part of where we are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a lot of things. I think, for me personally, just because, you live in a world where if you're a woman, you do have it, you always do have your guard up, and you always do have fear, and you do, you're more likely to know people who have been, attacked or hurt. Typically they're women. And I think in some ways, there's something about watching that can be almost educational, especially for women. And I almost wonder if that's not the reason why, like if you look at especially like true crime and that sort of stuff, and you go to like the true crime, like the My Favorite Murder, like the conferences and the all the stuff, it's like almost all women. And I think so much of that is about first of all, looking at it and going, okay, how can I learn from this? And then secondly, like taking back some of that empowerment and going like, you know what, like you don't get to own this whole story. We can, restructure it in a different way. And that's what I really, really loved about
Yeah.
the book.
Well, oh, I appreciate that. But yeah, and and that is one of those things with sort of like, you always see these very fraught theses from people being like, women and true crime, what is this link here? And but I'm always like, well, I think it's everyone and true crime, to be honest. Maybe just like, women who are into true crime feel like those are ballsy women who feel a little more open about their interests. But like,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of everyone. I don't know. But yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. Absolutely.
I read this book recently. I think it comes out next month. Okay, so it's called The Murder Book, and it's a graphic novel, and it's I thought it was going to be like a true crime graphic novel, and it kind of is, but it's about this cartoonist who's talking about her relationship with true crime and her mother who was obsessed with true crime and who knew, I want to say Ted Bundy, I can't even remember. But she basically like kind of explores it in this way of like, why is it that women are typically the victims, but women are also sort of, the consumer of these stories. And she had this fascinating thing that I didn't even know about, which was about, oh my God, what's that lady's name? She's like the true crime
Anne
horror.
Rule.
Anne Rule, yes. So Anne Rule, when she first started writing her like true crime stuff, she had to use a male pseudonym because they were
Right.
all the editors. They were like, nobody's going to buy that from a woman. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until she actually like fucking knew Ted Bundy and was like, I'm hanging out with him. Can I write this book under my own name? That they finally were like, I guess you can. And so there was this like gatekeeping at a certain
Yeah.
point that kind of opened. And she was like, maybe that's it. That the stories are about women, but they aren't always, there's not the women reflected in it. And I don't know,
Mhm.
it was a really interesting thought.
Yeah, there's an interesting book by Melanie Thernstrom called The Dead Girl, but it's about her roommate in college was murdered and became sort of this, big media murder. And she wrote the book about how disorienting it was to sort of be in the middle of this, and like, this isn't my friend. Like, the person everyone's talking about isn't the person I knew. She's like, we weren't that much of like best buddies. We fought a lot, but she's like, but she was a real person, and she's getting simplified and turned into something else in her death. And so the book follows the crime, and there's a whole thing with an ex-boyfriend and her sort of getting involved with it. But it also really, a lot of it's about her sort of trying to navigate like, what happens like once you're dead, you've kind of given up all your power, and the book's an attempt to like push back on that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to add that to my reading list. Okay, so two things. One, the scene where, spoiler alert, this is halfway through, the scene where they liberate Michelle
Mhm.
from the hospital, like literally I like stood up, I had to stop. I was like, this is the best thing ever. Oh my God. I loved everything about it. I loved Heather. every time, even though she's doing all the wrong things constantly. Loved her so much. Um, one of my favorite parts, one of my least favorite parts. Why is Garrett still alive in the end? Why didn't you murder him? Like, I hate him so
because
much.
because assholes like that never die. They just keep on doing their thing. Um, and actually, can I just answer something really quick in the chat before coming back to Michelle's
Oh,
death? Someone saying, was the with the final shootout in the camp impromptu by the killers? Did they plan it? Yeah, it was planned. The plan was to get everyone in one place and kill them all. And much to, and this is a spoiler, so but y'all have been warned about spoilers. The problem with the big plan for all this stuff is that Stephanie keeps going off and improvising, which drives Sky nuts. And so her going with Lynette is improvising. And, the plan was to get everyone in one place and then kill them all. And Stephanie's improvised and made that more difficult for him. So, of course, it's all about him. But yeah, the Michelle thing. So that's funny. I'm really glad you like that scene because I got so much pressure to take that scene out of Michelle being rescued from the hospice. Yeah, a couple of people involved in the book felt like it slowed the story down. And I felt like it was really important for two reasons. One was a book reason and one was a personal reason. And the book reason was that I felt like I wanted them all working together to do something good. Like, these couldn't just be a bunch of assholes fighting with each other all the time. And I wanted to show that they were capable of working together and actually accomplishing something. And actually, they cared about each other. And then the other reason is that's very closely based on that hospice where a friend of mine died several years ago. And I was there on his last day, and it's basically Michelle's room. That is a lot of that's taken from what happened with Dan, and so one of the things with writing books, and this, it's and your books are a little different from mine, or a lot different from mine, but like I think you do the same thing where you often like do things, work stuff out for yourself through the writing that the reader may not even be aware of. And it was really, this sounds goofy, it was really important for me to get Dan out of that room because it was so horrible, even only in a book. Even if I could only do that in an imaginary way, I really wanted to get him out of there. And I couldn't, he died there, a few hours after I was there that day, but I wanted to do that in the book. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to push back on this because A, the word count on this book isn't crazy. B, I want to see them all working together. And C, it makes me feel good and resolves my issues.
It absolutely does. It made me see them as friends. First of all, for the first time, instead of being like a bunch of people who were stuck together because of terrible situations, I
Right.
was like, they are together and they all have their own individual personalities that showed up in it. And I love that they got to say, you know what, she's going to get the death that she wants. We're not going to watch
Right.
another person die in a way that we don't want. We're going to take care of this and we're going to do it our way. And it's still, I love that. Like there was part of me that was like, no, get her to the ranch. She's got to see the flowers. Look at the flowers.
Right.
But then the way that you actually did it, I was like, that's so the way that it would really happen. That is
Oh,
absolutely so real,
well, and also they're so uncomfortable with it because like this is what they're fighting for, is to die natural deaths, but natural deaths are awful and gross and messy and unpleasant. And like Lynette and Heather are both deeply uncomfortable with this because they're kind of, and the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to, Heather could come across like an asshole in a lot of situations, but having a friend who's sort of a fuck yeah friend is like, there are situations where you really use them and they're very helpful. And I wanted to give a situation where Heather was helpful. When I did Southern Book Club, it's like there's a moment at the end where the type A characters use their cleaning skills to do some, and it's like very heroic cleaning. And you're like, oh, and it's like everyone, even if they seem like a horrible person, they have their place to shine. They just need to find the right environment.
Yeah. So I read that, I don't even remember how many times I've read it, at least 3, including
Oh,
today, because I was like, I have such a poor memory. And so I was like, I'm not going to, so I was like, okay, I'm going to read it all again today. And what I love is, well, a couple of things, but one of the things is the first time I read it, I was like, oh my God, Heather, she's such an asshole. Like, fucking get your shit together, Heather. This time when I read it, I was like, Heather is my favorite person. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
her. I mean, not just for comic relief, but also there's so many times when I'm like, fucking, you're right, Heather. You're fucking right. You're drunk, but you're right. So that, and the other thing that I didn't get the first time around, and it wasn't until this last reading that I started to see, and I'm not going to be able to find it because I highlighted a million different things in here, but there were all of these little things that pointed to Sky that I never got the first time, but that the second time I was like, he was asking like what kind of porn, and
Yeah.
what kind, I mean, and there are all these just these little where I was like, oh, how did I not get, like, they're just beautifully done
Oh, thank you.
subtle hints.
Well,
Good job.
and one of the things I did that I think people notice, but I'm not sure, is the first interstitial, like between chapters, is from a Reddit comment board, and it's where Sky and Stephanie meet for the first time. And their usernames you see later on. But no, I really appreciate that about Heather. Heather was my favorite character in the book. It's fun to write a character who's a train wreck, but it's also really, really, she had it the roughest. Like, the stuff that happened to her was such a violation because it was also inside her head, and no one believes her. Like, they think bad stuff happened, but they think she's exact. So to have something like that happen and have no one believe you, like, Heather's gotten it rough. Like, I know, I love Heather. She's my favorite. She, to me, is the second hero of the book after Adrian and Heather, all the way, ride or die.
Right. Here is a great question, because I know we gotta let you go in just like a couple of minutes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
great question. The scholarly writings were freaking brilliant and spot on. How did you come up with and write them?
So I've written a lot of stuff freelance. So like a lot of journalism and a lot of articles and a lot of catalog. So that stuff's fun for me to do, like to sort of find that voice again. But all those, like the scholarly stuff, a lot of those interstitials are stuff I had written to sort of get into character for the book. And Crazy Chrissy is kind of like me. Like all that like mystical mumbo jumbo musing. Years ago, I tried to sell a slasher screenplay that never went anywhere, but it was basically a final girl from a real life killing that a movie franchise is based on, comes back years later to the town where it happened. And they have a celebration of the franchise, a big tourist thing. And she believes the killings are going to happen again. And at the very, I would say the 30-page point in the screenplay, she gets shot in the head. And so for the rest of the movie, she has this traumatic brain injury and she's hallucinating. And so all this mystical, weird mumbo jumbo stuff was part of that. And I really was invested in it. And so like I put it all in Chrissy, and then I had to cut it way down. So those interstitials were ways to get some more of that back in there.
Well, that it was fantastic and wonderful, and I just assumed that she was on ketamine, because that's what ketamine does to you. It does not make snails want to kill you. It pretty much makes you into this mythological weirdo, where you're just completely crazy.
A mythological weirdo.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh! Well, I can't believe it is already 6 o'clock. This was
Yeah.
so much fun. You're amazing. Every
Oh
time I
no.
talk to you, so
Thanks. No,
fun.
I really appreciate it. This is the most fun interview I usually do because it's actually a conversation. So no, I really love doing this. And I always emerge from these with like 10% less of my soul because your dolls like suck it out of me.
I know, and then I put it in me, and then that's how I'm going to write my book. So
Exactly. And I could always stand to lose a little soul. So
right, it's fine. It makes you thinner. It's good. It's
exactly.
healthy. It's like the leeches with the bloodletting. It's so
I
letting.
want to keep my beach body through the winter season. So
You're welcome. Hot girl summer continued.
hot girl Halloween. Here I come.
Oh my God, the best. All right, everybody. So check out Final Girl Support Group. So good, so fantastic. And thank you, everybody, for sticking around with us.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Yes.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Bye.